long as all the things start recording, we can get rocking and rolling, which it looks like it is. Excellent. So before we do get started, there is a principle out there that each of you have either been suffering from or advantaging yourself to. And this principle is Wealth Principle 43, which is understanding the power of demographics. By show of hands, who here would like to make more money this year? More money this year. Excellent. Who'd like to do it making less work? So you put in less work, but you get more output from the work you're putting in. Awesome. So as I get into it, I want to say welcome to anybody who is new, and for everybody who's been with us for a long time, welcome back, alchemists. This is the 52 Weeks to Wealth with myself, Walter Morello. We're going to be diving into today Wealth Principle 43, understanding the power of demographics. Before we get started, in this market right now, there is one big monster demographic that is going to move $89 trillion worth of wealth. It's something called the greatest transfer of all time, the greatest wealth transfer of all time. One more math equation for you is that there are $39.9 trillion locked up in 401ks. That's retirement plans, not just 401ks, it's retirement plans. So that is two big numbers that I use that have a T in them. Show of hands if you understand that's 15 zeros. That's 15 digits. Many people are talking about becoming, not many people, but I've heard a few people say, I want to be the first trillionaire. Let me first put into context that $1 trillion is not 1,000 millions. $1 trillion is not 1,000 billions. No, well, yeah, it is. $1 trillion is 1,000 billions, and it's I'm sorry, I skipped it. $1 billion is 1,000 millions. By the way, who here has not yet earned $1 billion? We know there's less than 3,000 people on a planet with 8 billion people on the planet. Only 3,000 have ever attained billionaire status. And there are only 5 companies that have ever attained full company value that have ever gone over $1 trillion. So first, I want to put into context that there is more wealth sitting in America right now that is going to transfer over the next 20 years than there has ever been in all of the major companies that are on the planet, all of the top 5 major companies. Show of hands to understand the size of this. In fact, let's do a more honest one. Show of hands if we actually probably don't understand how big this is. It's actually way bigger than our minds can fathom because we have a hard time getting past those huge, tremendous numbers. There's one other number that I want to throw at you, and that number is $87 trillion of real estate in the United States. That's just the value of the real estate in this country. Show of hands, we understand it is the most valuable asset there is. It's 12 trillion in gold. So if you think of it in context, there's a lot of people who think gold's a great idea. And in Bitcoin, there's $500 billion in Bitcoin to $1 trillion, half to $1 trillion, depending on the day, because that thing goes up and down. Unlike real estate, which seems to go for the last 2 years sideways. Who here has noticed real estate prices have not really shot up in the last 2 years? They've kind of gone sideways. Why is this important? We're talking about a topic called demographics. Demographics are what dictates your income in your business. To the degree that you understand the demographics in the marketplace is the degree that you will get paid. Show of hands again if you are committed to making more money this year. Excellent. We're running out of year, by the way. We only have 62 days until the summit, which is the most important weekend of your life, or at least I'll propose that it could be the most important weekend of your life because the 80-20 rule means that of the 80-20, there's a 96 and 4, and of the 96 and 4, there's a 1% and a 99% of the year that is going to be more impactful than any other point of your year. Now, 1% of 365 is 3.5 days. So I propose that there is always, every year, by the way, one weekend that'll be more impactful than any other weekend of your year. Show of hands if that's true. In fact, in your lifetime, there'll be one year that is more impactful than any other year in your lifetime because of this principle, assuming you live to be 100 years old. By the way, show of hands if you're committed to living to 100 years old or more. Excellent. Give yourselves a round of applause. I love it. We're going to hang out with rich people, healthy people, and show of hands you commit to only doing it with good people who you have fun with, who you love, know, like, and trust. Excellent. So we're going to do it with our friends. So we're going to have great relationships, great bodies, and we're going to have great businesses because we understand the demographics. There are a couple of shifts that are happening right now, and these are called demographic shifts. And there's one other component to real estate investing that's really important. That's called migratory patterns. Is anybody familiar with what migratory patterns are? I will quickly explain for everybody, for just the one person who didn't raise their hand, which was everybody on the call except for Richie. So, Richie, I'm not explaining for you. I'm explaining just to everybody else. Migratory patterns are when big populations move from one place to another. They move and they bring with them money. They bring with them economy. They bring with them cash flow, assets, and attention. And it's really important when we think about how our business operates. It actually operates from people knowing us. In fact, there's a statement in business, and I bet your brain's already thinking because you've been in opposition for a long time. People only do business with people that they know, like, and trust. Show of hands if we agree that that is absolutely true. Now, a way to define knowing, liking, and trusting a person would be to say that they're a friend. In fact, many of us would say that we know, like, and trust our family. We might even say we know, love, and trust our family. And so friends tend to be the people that we'll do business with. Now, of 8 billion people on the planet, one big mistake that I see entrepreneurs make very often, we discuss this often in our coaching programs and inside the Recession Proof Challenge, is this. Most people, when you say, who's your customer? Most entrepreneurs, by the way, show of hands if you're an entrepreneur. You're in sales, you're in business, you're buying real estate, you're buying assets, you're buying businesses, you're investing. That makes you an entrepreneur. Excellent. Most entrepreneurs, when they come to me or one of our coaches, will say this when we ask, who's your customer? They'll tell me or one of our coaches this. Everybody's my customer because what I sell, everybody can use. So, fans, if you've heard that from somebody before, you're at a networking event and they're like, everybody, anybody who, and that is a major flaw because there's actually nobody on the planet yet who is serving every single person. 8 billion people on the planet. There's not a single company, not a single person or entity that has figured out how to serve 8 billion people, except for maybe God. He does give you oxygen every day. Who here is consuming that stuff like a fiend? You know, and try going 5 minutes without it. It's crazy. So there's only one entity out there that has actually figured this out. So in order to be a godlike business, you would have to have godlike powers. Show of hands if you find that you get tired every day, you get fatigued, you don't have all the energy. All right. So we have to admit that we're human and we have frailty and we don't have the capacity maybe at that, omnipresence, omnipotent level. So being a human, we also have requirements, money being one of those. True or true? Yes. Being mission driven, we also have money requirements. Some things in our mission cost money. Like, if you want to go and feed the poor, well, then you need to have money to feed the poor or a whole bunch of people who are making money and feeding the poor, which that takes time and effort. So if we think about our business and our impact and the fact that it needs money, and we just put that out there as a need, it's just part of the thing. It's nothing good or it's nothing bad. We're not putting any energy on money. The demographics of the world, there are going to be some who have more money and some who have less money. Show of hands if that's true too. If we look at the 80-20 principle outside of just the most powerful weekend of the year, which is the summit, I propose, then we can also look at the 80-20 into our business. 80% of your clients are going to suck. 80% will only bring you 50% of your income. 20% are going to rock. And they're going to bring you 50% of your income. Show of hands if you'd make more money if you spent 20% more time on the 20% than if you spent on the 80% who are not only not paying you as much, but also time wasters, frustration creators. I'm looking at Melody right now. She's got 9 managers in her company. And I guarantee you, if we 80-20, there's probably one manager who totally sucks. And it's just frustrating. We should have gotten rid of them a long time ago. And then if we look at the company, we could probably say that there's one manager in there who's a rock star who could probably run half of the stores that she has. Let's give Melanie Santos a round of applause. She's up to 9 subways, I think over 40 real estate units and continuing to scale up. So for you, the entrepreneur, understanding demographics is about understanding what kind of customer you like, but also what kind of customer the marketplace has. Sometimes the customers that we want don't actually exist in the marketplace. Anybody ever dreamed up the ideal customer and then went out looking and couldn't find them? Like the customer just throws $1 million at you every day. they just keep throwing $1 million and they never call, they never ask for anything. And it's just amazing. So sometimes our dreamed up ideal customer doesn't exist. But there are always going to be 8 billion or more people. In fact, they say we may plateau somewhere around 9 or 11 billion people on this planet. So there's going to continuously be more people. True or true? And we also agree not everybody's your customer. Yes? Excellent. So in order to build a business, We first must narrow down the amount of people that we can work with. We must become clear that there's a smaller percentage of people. Who here is a real estate investor? Show of hands if you would love to acquire more real estate this year. Passive income, big multifamilies, bunch of rental properties, just tenants paying you. That's my ideal customer. Tenants paying you, and tenants who want to pay more than the average rent. Show of hands if that'd be cool. Tenants who pay more than the average rent. There is a demographic out there that does this. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, probably at the summit, a lot about that there. We'll talk a little bit about it here. And there's also a person who would sell their house to you, seller finance. Who would love that? To not have to go get their credit checked, not have to go to the big banks. Some sellers will sell to you with 0% interest seller finance for a series of years. And they'll sell not just one house, but an entire portfolio. There's a demographic of people out there who own more than one property. And so, as we're thinking about investing and scaling up our businesses and scaling up our real estate portfolios for our passive income, we have to go back into our heads and say, wow, like, where is this ideal customer? And that's where migratory patterns start coming into play. When we start looking about where people are moving, where they're moving from, there are certain cities on this planet, in this country, that have more income than other cities. Drop in the chat. What are one of those cities? I know each of you actually knows one of those cities in your head. You're like, oh, I can think of it right now. Drop in the chat one of the cities that you know for sure is a high income city, makes more income than other cities, either in the state or in the country. And if you drop down New York, LA, yes, Colorado, Boston, Miami, San Fran, these are high income cities. Now, what's interesting is high income cities have high income earners. What's also interesting is high income cities have low income earners. So, fans, if you're familiar, the rich and the poor live side by side. That's why real estate is block to block. The most valuable real estate and the most unvaluable, the least valuable real estate can literally be side by side inside of a city. Who here is familiar with the bubbles within a city? You could walk right down certain streets and say, "What happened? We left the palm trees and we ended up in the worst part of the city. What is going on here?" If you've ever been in one of those experiences, turn back. Just go back the same way you came. It goes right back to being great. Real estate stays the way it is for long periods of time. So if you ever find yourself in a bad neighborhood, you can just turn around and go back to a good neighborhood. Show of hands if that's been true for you. Well, it's the same thing with demographics. If you ever find yourself in an audience or a customer base that isn't working for you, you can just go back to the customer audience base that was working for you. And as long as they still live in that area, and I say area, it could be all sorts of different spaces because traffic is no longer just physical. It could be the internet. It could be a different platform. It could be a different form of marketing. But you go back in that customer base and they start focusing on more of that type of customer. Your business will expand. Challenges that we face with demographics is one, not being very clear on what's actually happening in the marketplace. So there are a couple of resources that you can go to identify where people are moving, the migratory patterns. And this would be, I think it's U-Haul or movers.com. There's all sorts of moving companies actually keep traffic of where the trucks are going, where people are renting trucks and dropping trucks off. And that gives you a general direction of where the companies are moving. And I can't remember actually the resources right now, but you can go online, you can just search what are migratory patterns, what companies could I find migratory patterns in? And as you're looking and seeing, you're going to notice that there are two major places that people are moving into, one being Florida, the other being Texas. I'll throw Arizona as a close third. And the Florida side are coming from New England and a little bit of California. And the Texas side are primarily coming from California and a little bit of New England. And the Arizona side are primarily coming from California and Washington. These are important demographics because those are states, the highest earning states in the country. New England, the highest earning, Washington, and then California. Show of hands, these are all common sense to us. We understand this much. This is high level demographics. As you start going deeper into it, you can actually start identifying where the money is and then where the deals are. So there are certain areas in the country, and me and Vinny were talking about this with his RALs. He always does a market study before going and putting an investment into any kind of retirement, assisted living, or any business that he starts. He looks to see if there is a demand in the area. One of the demands he looks for is an aging population. If the area that he's looking to build in doesn't have an aging population, there's a good chance he's not going to have tenants to fill his building because he has a very specific type of tenant. And he plans on talking about this at the summit, by the way. Show fans, you'll be at the summit this year to learn about the silver tsunami, learn about residential assisted living, Excellent. So Vinny's very fired up to talk about it because he's the one who told me about the $39.9 trillion of money tied up in 401ks. He raised $280 million and bought $1.6 billion worth of real estate. And he said the majority of that money came out of people's retirement funds. So just imagine what would happen for you if you learned how to leverage self-directed 401ks and retirement funds. If you started going and having conversations with people who had money. And I want to continue this conversation with a deep understanding that all people are human beings and deserve to be treated with respect. And also, all deals we do in Alchemist Nation must be done morally, ethically, and legally. Show of hands if you agree, morally, ethically, and legally, everything that we do. So let me tell a story back when I started in real estate and I identified my ideal avatar. The person who would lend money to us, the person who had properties, the person who would do seller financing for us, and the person who spent the most money on just about everything that they did. I was in the cigar shop with my business partner and my mentor, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, all the deals you've done, where do they come from?" And he said, "Well, my business is not like yours. My business is very different." He said he bought 185 units back in the 90s. And he said, my business was because I built relationships. Now, I was a property manager and I built relationships with the banks, and the banks, they started foreclosing on people. And some of these older guys and older people, they just didn't have the funds or the ability to manage anymore. So I would manage for them. And then when they were losing their properties, they would actually advocate on my behalf that the bank would give me the property. And then the banks, because I had such a great relationship with the banks and I was, managing for them, they would actually give me a wonderful deal when they were getting rid of the properties off of their books. And something in that story made me go back and say, how did you make that happen? Because most of the properties he purchased were with little or no money down. He was buying them for pennies on the dollar. We're talking about he bought 35 units. He bought a whole block basically for like $800,000. That's a lot of real estate. Now, what was interesting is that it was actually offered to him for $350,000 by the bank. He said no to that one deal. Show of hands if we've all made mistakes. He doesn't regret it because it's worth, I don't know, $5 million. It's a little over $5 million, $6 million, that portfolio right now. So he did okay, but he could have bought it for like $500,000 less because he didn't say yes to a relationship because he was new. It was just, he had never bought anything at that size and he was new. Anybody ever been there? New, made mistakes? All right, just a little side quest. Just wanted to make sure you know that it's okay to make mistakes, okay to miss out on opportunities because he then bought it later from another person for $500,000 more. Going back to the purpose of the story is he had built relationships with the elderly. He had built relationships with people who were getting out of the business, who were older, who had challenges inside the city. They were high net worth individuals who no longer want to manage their properties. And they were having challenges. He was a great customer, a great steward of their properties for years and years. And that relationship, which he's very big on relationships, he says something to me all the time. He says, just be a decent human being. But that isn't really what he means. What he means is have extremely high standards for how relationships are and treat people with respect and do what you're supposed to do, make things work better than you said you would. So his be a decent human being is actually be a very exceptional human being. Show of hands if we understand high standards in relationships are what made him successful. The demographic he served were people who had a large amount of property and who were old enough to no longer want to manage that property themselves. Now, he didn't do this as a tactic, but you're allowed to. Now, I'm not in any way suggesting becoming a property manager. If you're not cut out for it, please do not get involved. Me and Ron did this years and years ago. We lasted 6 months. We got up to 84 units and we said, I'm out. This doesn't make sense. When our assistant left because she was overwhelmed and me and him ended up being the property managers, we realized we're real estate agents and real estate investors. We're going to get out of this. And so instead of selling the business, I made one of my biggest mistakes to this day that I look back like, damn, that was a big mistake. Instead of selling the business, we handed the business off to another property management company, which is good for them. But for us, we had 85 units. We could have easily sold that for, even if we made 80 grand, 100 grand, that would have been something more than what we had done. So write this down. It's completely unrelated to demographics. But if you are going to close a business or get rid of a business or exit a business, please take the year or 6 months or 2 years to put into place a business plan so that you can sell the business for something. Even even in that situation, we could have spent 2 or 3 months just to tighten it up, market it, get it out to people, and we could have seller financed the biz. We could have done so many things to make a little bit of extra money. Show of hands, if you understand, this bothers me. I'm probably talking about even if I took 40,000 from it, so I would have been very happy because I broke one of the most fundamental rules in the business. Before you shut something down, just sell it to somebody else. Now it's important to you because right now, the demographic that I'm requesting that you go out and serve is an owner of real estate and businesses. And the Silver Tsunami, which Vinny's going to talk about at the summit, they have a large amount of assets, but they don't have a lot of time and they don't want to put a lot of effort into things. And they're selling and in many cases, shutting down their businesses. And there's TikTok influencers and people talking about this all the time, but I want to emphasize you don't have to go buy businesses. That's not my point. I know Cody Sanchez, I think it's Cody Sanchez. She's always talking about, buy businesses, buy businesses, buy businesses because people are selling their business or giving them away for free, just shutting them down, closing the doors. That's not the whole point of this community. We're here for cash flow. True or true? Cash flow, more income, more impact. So I'm not saying go buy the business, but if the business does have real estate in it and they're looking to close the doors, it might make sense to buy real estate and businesses together because you can actually buy the real estate using an SBA loan, which means you're only putting, in some cases, 10% down, which allows you to get access to real estate for a much smaller barrier to entry than if you were to go the commercial route, which you would have to if you went the real estate lending side of things. Show of hands, we understand at 30% down and very high interest rates, whereas the SBA will be much more available to you. Now, obviously, if the business is in rough repair, you may have to put management in place, or you may want to just, here's my favorite strategy. I was telling Melanie this the other day when she was thinking about buying a restaurant. I was like, cool, the restaurant comes with the land, sell the business, keep the building, triple net lease, buy both, then sell the business, keep the land. Hopefully, if you did it right, the land is paid off, and now you're just earning passive income from the business, from the land itself, from the rents. That's a strategy that works right now because of this big demographic shift, this big wealth transfer. We're going to talk a lot more about the silver tsunami over the next few months, and especially at the summit, because what I discovered back then when I was sitting with my mentor, and what I think you're discovering right now, is all the money is sitting in a very large 60 million person population called the silver tsunami, called the baby boom generation. And what I had to do back then was, and I sat down with myself. I really did. I sat down with myself and said, man, do I want to hang around a bunch of old people? Now that sounds weird, right? It sounds like what a silly question. But to me, I run a relational business. I'm not a transactional human being. So I have to build deep relationships with people if I'm going to do business with them. And so I really had to get comfortable with the idea of sitting around coffee shops or coffee tables or kitchen tables, hanging out with older people. And I had a hard time with it. I was like, man, I don't want to, waste my life with people who aren't cool. But something in my side of me said, well, all the money's there. Maybe it was the money hungry side of me. I was young, right? I was young and crazy. So I did it anyway. I went out and I pretended to be their friend. I pretended to be cool. And I felt really slimy and grimy doing it. I felt terrible, but I was just forcing myself to go out and do something that would make me successful and financially rich. And something really strange happened while I was out there in these houses. I started to learn about a past generation. I started to get business tips from people who are way smarter than me. I started to get opportunities to go and connect with people who had big portfolios or were willing to sell their big portfolios to somebody who was young and ambitious and doing things and who listened. And as I was hanging out, I started noticing I like these people more than I like people my age. I no longer felt like I was discounting my life. I no longer felt like I was giving up on something for money. I felt like I was building friends and relationships and getting mentors and building I was getting access to the history of my city. I was getting access to the history of my culture. I grew up Portuguese, but I didn't really get to know or learn too much about the Portuguese culture because I didn't really spend a lot of time with my grandparents. And that didn't really get to happen until I was later in life. When I did start spending time with my grandparents, I loved them. It was so cool that my grandparents taught me Portuguese when I was 16 years old. I couldn't speak a lick of Portuguese until I was 16. I used to go downstairs to my grandparents' house in the basement because, the Portuguese do that in New England anyway. They have basements. And I would go all the way downstairs. They don't live in the first floor, they live in the basement. And well, they own the first floor. They have furniture up there. They sleep up there, and then they spend all their time in the basement because the basement's much cooler in the summer and much warmer in the winter. And I would go downstairs, and my grandfather would sit me down, and he'd give me a verb, one word, and then he'd give me all the verbs to that word. Show of hands if you remember learning English. It's kind of like that, except I was learning Portuguese. Show of hands if you got a second language. If you got one of those you'd learn at school that you forgot. I couldn't forget it because I would go out and start my business. When I started my business in real estate, I was 28 years old. I had to go back and open up all my notebooks for my grandfather so I could have conversations with the Portuguese families that I was speaking to. And it allowed me to go a little deeper into my culture, which is something I felt like I missed as a child, but I got later on in life. And so if you feel like you couldn't connect, or and that's why I share this, if because I felt like I couldn't connect. I wasn't sure how I would ever connect with people who are 40 years older than me, 50, 60 years older than me. And then it turned out I could because I was genuinely interested in some of the things that they had to say. I was really interested in their language. I was really interested in their culture. I was really interested in how they built their business. How does an immigrant come from Portugal, come over here and build this monster business, own all this real estate, own these bakeries, or own these car companies, and own all these things? I was genuinely fascinated by the hustle, by the grind that these people must have had when they were my age, when they were coming across, not speaking the language, and building companies, just hiring people and training people and building really beautiful businesses. And I found a passion in working with this generation. And show of hands if you could do the same, if you believe that it's possible for you to find a passion in working with people who have money. These people, by the way, significantly richer than I was. I was 20, 28 years old, and I just had some knowledge from books. They had real life experience. They had real life connections. I would go to their house and I would be hanging out in millionaires' houses. This is the first time I'd ever experienced houses that had 12 bedrooms in them. It was amazing, and 6,000 square foot houses from somebody who grew up in an apartment. And they were just letting me in. They were walking me around the house, explaining, how things went, telling me about, by the way, the loss of their husband, the loss of their wife, and because they're going through challenges and they're going through pain. And sometimes I would leave their houses and I would sit in my truck and I would cry because I just couldn't believe how, because they were living in the pain every day, and I would really empathize and listen to some of that. Then other times I would leave their houses and I'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe I just learned all of that. They just mentored me for a full freaking hour and I'm going to sell their houses, or I'm going to buy their houses. And like it blew my mind, the generosity of just other human beings. So my employment to you is there's a generation right now that needs a lot of help. It's the same generation I've been serving my entire career. And we're building a team of coaches who are building their entrepreneurs to go out and serve at that level. So if you are one of our coaches, let's give yourselves a round of applause because that's who we serve truly is that generation. And if you're one of our entrepreneurs who comes to our events and is looking to level yourself up, I do ask that you work with the coaches and level yourself up so you can have better conversations when you're in these houses. So you have better tools, better resources. So you're making the calls. So you're showing up to the appointments. This generation right now is by far being taken advantage of the most because they're unsophisticated in many ways. They don't know about the new technologies. They don't know about the new rules. They don't know about the different types of scams that are out there. People buying their houses and not actually buying the wholesalers out there, tricking them into deals that don't work. By the way, I know there's a few of you on here who are good wholesalers. Show of hands, we agree. There's a lot of wholesalers that are not good wholesalers, and that would make the larger majority of them. And so there's a lot of things that these folks need to understand. I'm going to give you one quick tip, and it's take it or leave it. But I spoke last week, and I'll be speaking about this at the summit. It was called the ROE equation. And I showed the community how to do ROE, that conversation. And there was a gentleman in the room, and Gary was sitting in the front, and like he and I laughed about it afterwards. Like, did you plant that guy there? This guy must have been in his 60s. And he told me, he said, no way would somebody ever sell their house right now in Florida because of the home trust owners homestead thing. That means that their tax basis never goes up because if they sell, they're going to go to a new house and their tax basis could increase by $8,000 because their house went from being worth 100,000 to being worth $1 million. Now they got this big over $500,000 gain. And if they go to this new house, they're not going to be that trust protection, homestead protection is not going to go with them and stop the taxes from increasing. And I said, are you sure you want to stand on that podium right now? You want to stand on that pedestal with me right now? Because I hadn't gone through the whole presentation. And he said, yeah, it's true. And I was like, okay, well, So I told the whole room, I was like, what, one, I would never respond to a person like that. I'm just here in a situation. I really wanted to verify that he was serious about it. And so I said, well, man, you know what? If that's a real concern. I agree. That is a major concern. And I will add a component to this at the end so that that is solved. And not only will that be solved, but you'll be able to make a little bit more on top of it. So you'll actually increase income. And I walked him through why seller financing would actually increase. So I said, just on $500,000, right? $500,000 is the gain we're talking about. And you're going to go buy a house, and the taxes on that house are going to be $8,000 extra a year. So what if I paid you $2,000 a month? You don't pay any taxes because you're just lending me the money. You don't pay any taxes. If the scenario could work out this way, you pay no taxes on the sale and you get paid $2,000 a month, and the extra taxes are $8,000. So now you'd be making $24,000 a year, and 8,000 would be going to taxes. So you'd be netting $16,000 extra a year. He said, that's impossible. I said, but I agree that right now it seems like that's impossible, but let's pretend it was possible. Would that be a better situation for you if you were earning more from having sold the property? And he said, well, yes, but it's impossible. So then I stepped back and I started walking him through seller financing, how seller financing works. And he said, why would anybody in their right mind pay me $2,000 a month? Because, I'm not paying taxes and I'm lending out that 500,000. I just did some quick math and looked around the room and said, guys, do we grasp that that's like 5% interest, right? Who here would love $500,000 at 5% interest? Yeah. So then he's like, well, why, how do I know they're going to keep paying me? So, well, because they're taking a second position on the property and you could always take the property back. And then you have the house, right? So now you got the equity that is stacked up and you got the house and all the improvements they've done in it. So benefit. And I said, well, what about if I die? What if I die? What happens? So, well, that's the next part of this equation is I'm glad you talked about that because that's a major concern. We should have that concern. We just told them about the family trust. We put it into a family trust and your family's all on that. So when you pass away, that money keeps going into the same bank account it always has gone into. It's just that your kids now are using that bank account instead of letting you use it. And he said, well, why would they keep paying me? What if I live for 20 years or 40 years or what happens beyond that? I was like, well, I went back to the room and we'll do it together. If you had somebody's money, $500,000, and you only owed 5% interest on it every year, show of hands if you would keep rolling that money over and over and over and over and over and over. Let's give everybody on the call a big round of applause. It was wonderful, wonderful. I couldn't have planted that guy in the room if I thought of it. I could not have like planned or dreamed that somebody would have that particular objection because that's exactly the objection you're going to have in their homes. They're going to have these problems. They're going to have the tax problem. They're going to have the income problem. They're going to have the what happens when I die, the succession problem. And the solution really is to just be a trustworthy person, go in there and talk about the revocable trust, talk about the seller financing, and talk about what you do as a real estate investor, why you're able to get that return, why 5% is such a good value to me as an investor, because I can go and get 12% on it. I can get a 20% return on investment. If I were to talk about this at the summit in more detail and actually show you what, by the way, I actually map out on a piece of paper how you should write it out so that they understand it. Who here knows that older folks have a hard time understanding this whole concept? But when you write it out on a piece of paper and you have 3 pages and you just go through one by one by one, you explain that process, it becomes significantly easier for them to grasp. And so if you're interested, drop in the chat the word yes. If you are interested, I will teach that at the summit as one of the specific strategies to level ourselves up this year. I see yes. I see yes. Okay. I don't know if the yeses are happening fast enough. I thought there'd be a lot more yeses. I just okay.
Are,
Okay. The
are we
yeses
going to
stepped
go
up.
back and compare the yeses to the number of people who have purchased summit tickets?
I think
Because it
that's a
doesn't do
wonderful
any
idea.
good to have the yeses if they're not going to be at the summit. I'm just saying.
Gary, I think that's a wonderful idea. So if you have not purchased a summit ticket or not purchased your hotel yet, your yes doesn't count. And I hope that the yeses have all acquired their residents, their ability to be at the event this year because it's going to be epic. Our whole focus this year is generating income. That is the whole premise behind the summit this year is to increase income, is to simplify and get your time back. And yes, we're preparing your business for sale because Wealth Principle 33 says you build your business to sell your business and get rich. The whole point of a business is one day to sell the business, pass it along to somebody else, move on to more passive investment strategies. So yes, there's the link. Awesome. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you, brother, for dropping that in there. It's summit.alchemistnation.com. Now, there's an action step. Every single week inside the 52 Weeks to Wealth, we have a couple of components. One being the book of the week, one being the action step, two being a guided meditation to make sure that we go and do the stuff and just kind of hypnotize inside our heads. And then my favorite part is the Q&A at the end, where you can ask any questions that you want. Before we do the book of the week, I first want to give you action steps so that you can go forward and take really powerful action inside this actual challenge. Show fans if you're ready for some action steps. All right. 3 steps in order to identify the demographics and manage them in a much better way. 1, conduct market research. You can use basic tools like the internet, and you can use basic tools like ChatGPT to identify generalized information about your market. But if you want to get really good information, you're going to have to reach out and actually touch the customers. You're going to have to actually ask people who are in that demographic and confirm that they feel the same way that the internet has told you. And you're going to have to do some marketing to make sure that that's actually in existence. So invest in market research to collect demographic data about your current and potential customers. Use surveys, focus groups, and data analysis to gather insights. One thing that we use inside of Alchemist Nation are communities. We actually build communities of our target demographic so we can ask them questions. So I can very easily ask them questions. One form of community we've built is the Business and Real Estate Professionals Network. Show of hands if you've been to one of those. Excellent. Because our mission is financial freedom for all. And we believe that entrepreneurs who serve real estate owners and business owners are the secret to creating financial freedom for this baby boom generation, for the silver tsunami. Many of these older folks don't have the sophisticated tools that these professionals have, and these professionals aren't getting into their homes fast enough in order to have the conversation right. There's too many people in the same space as them who are competing, and they're not doing things morally, ethically, and legally. Maybe they do them legally, but they're not doing them from a place of knowledge, not doing from a place of actually how to create financial freedom. So hence, there's a lot of real estate investors who don't know how to have these conversations. There's a lot of business buyers who don't care about this person moving on and having financial freedom. They're just focused on acquiring the asset. Here in this community, we want to make sure that people are actually able to live a quality life. It's financial freedom for all. It's not just financial freedom for our community. It's financial freedom for the customers we serve. It's financial freedom for the people that we're working with. So number 1, conduct market research. The strong suggestion is build a community of your ideal customer. Number 2, develop customer personas. Create detailed customer personas that represent various demographic segments you aim to target. Use these personas to guide your marketing strategies and develop product development. In fact, inside the RPC, I have one of my marketing personas from Gualter and Rollo, my brand, when I was running the real estate training, names on deeds, be the bank, all of that. And one of the personas was this guy named Richard. And what was interesting is Richie Decker is inside the Recession Proof Challenge. He's one of our coaches. And he said, "Oh my God, that guy is me." His name's even Rich. And so I was joking, but it's actually kind of the reason we named him Rich is because he was our richer demographic. So we said this is the rich guy who is on his way to becoming rich. This is the rich becoming, we called him Richard. And demographics were entrepreneur who has a family, has kids, married, in their 40s and 50s, looking to level up, get to the next level. They believe in hard work, they believe in grind, and they just haven't seen the success that they want to see, but they know it's possible and they're committed to their success, willing to do the stuff. And Richard's like, "It's me. It's me." And they have the desire to give back and contribute. So you want to build a persona that is so tight to people you have worked with in the past. And that's the only way you're ever going to know them that well, is to have worked with them in the past. Number 3, adapt your marketing strategy. Adjust your marketing message, adjust your channels, your tactics so that they resonate with each demographic segment. Customize promotions, content, and try to align with the interests and preferences of your target audience. So this week, those are the 3 basic steps. Step 1, I want you just to go into the internet. This is the fastest way to do this. Go into the internet and type in the information about the ideal customer. You can use a prompt in ChatGPT and say, "Hey, this is my business. This is where I live. This is the income I'm looking to make. And here are past customers I worked with. Where is more of this best type of customer?" We call that the avatar. Inside the Recession Proof Challenge, our coaches teach you how to develop your avatar, which is number 2, develop a customer persona, which is your avatar. Again, it is identifying your best customer. And inside the Recession Proof Challenge, we do talk about how to do that. Number three, adapt your marketing strategy. This is a test. Test just one thing. If you're not currently marketing to find either your properties or your deals or your customers, then test one marketing strategy that is cheap enough for you to be able to do it and scale enough. It's cheap enough for you to do it at scale. So if you're doing mailers and your budget is only, let's call it $600, then you would, in order to do a mailer campaign properly, and I'm not suggesting mailers, I'm just saying this is a one I know very well, is if you're going to do it very well, you must send out 6 mailers and be successful. Now, a lot of people fuck this up. They'll go out and they'll send out 600 mailers one time instead of sending out 100 mailers to the same audience 6 times. Because marketing is actually, I'm gonna give you a marketing tip today. Show of hands if you're okay with a marketing tip. Michael Gabriel's not here. He's moving his family and moving renters in. He gave me a marketing tip that ties right into this. He said that the key to getting more sales is all about follow up, whether that is retargeting ads or automations. It typically takes people seeing you over and over 11 times before making a decision. So never stop following up. Email, text, ads, phone calls, drive-bys, door knocks, mailers. There's a lot of different ways to stay in touch with people. Be seen, be known. So adapt your marketing strategy. Just pick one that you're going to implement this week. One that you're going to do this week. Not all of them, just one, and change and do different iterations of it. See how you get through it. Whew, big lesson, valuable. Understand demographics. We're going to dive into the book of the week, which is who's running the book of the week? Gary Aker. Let's give Gary Aker a big round of applause. He's never read the book, but he did ChatGPT it. So Gary's the COO of Alchemist Nation. So in the absence of Michael Shine, our holistic attorney, our keeper of the books, the closer, we've got Gary Aker. Book of the week.
No, I will. No, actually, I went out and got the book after you told me I was doing book of the week. So there it is. And and so let me tell you about Robert Greene. So he's a guy who's become a go-to guide for millions of people looking to tap into ancient wisdom and philosophy. He's known for breaking down complex ideas into powerful, easy to digest lessons on power, mastery, and understanding. And now he's taken on the biggest challenge of all, helping us understand what really drives people, even when they don't fully get it themselves. Because we're all social creatures, right? Our lives revolve around our relationships with others. If we don't understand why people act the way they do, we're missing a crucial tool in our toolkit. So no matter how talented we are, we can only get so far without it. So Greene draws on the lives of people like Pericles, Queen Elizabeth I, Martin Luther King Jr. to show us how to get a handle on our emotions and develop the empathy and see beyond the masks that people wear. So whether you're looking to succeed at work, improve your relationships, or make a mark on the world, the laws of human nature is packed with practical advice on how to succeed and grow and protect yourself in the process. It's about mastering the game of life and understanding the people in it. There you go. So that's our book of the week, Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene.
Let's give Gary Aker a big round of applause. I do notice that my book is a lot thicker. I got the thicker version of the Laws of Human Nature.
Mine's a little thinner than that, but yeah, okay.
I love it. One more time for Gary Aker for creativity, handling the challenge. And that is what it takes to have great partners, is people who can see an opportunity and see a challenge, and they see an opportunity. They see an opportunity to develop and move to the next level. Every single week, we not only do the book of the week, we not only do a marketing tip now. Marketing tip, by the way, brought to you by Michael Gabriel, who runs our traffic. Who here has seen our retargeting ads for the summit inside their feed? Anybody? Yeah, retargeting. Awesome. Give yourselves a round of applause for being in the feed. I love that. Excellent. That's because of Michael Gabriel. He makes sure that anybody who's checked into any of our events actually goes and gets retargeted and sees anything that we're doing inside the community. So it's a big part of what we're doing here. Mitch Dorsky, before we go into a mindset, a little, what do we call it? Hypnotic session, a guided meditation. Before we do that, can you give us a quote that is impactful and powerful, that lines up with the laws of human nature, lines up with understanding demographics?
I can give you a rap quote.
Perfect.
Might not be as profound, but it's fitting because at the end of the day, sometimes simplicity is where it's at. And, with all the talk about observing the silver tsunami at the end of the day, I mean, to quote the late great guru from the legendary hip hop group Gangstar, in a song, he said, look, listen, and observe. Actually, you know what? I'm going to paraphrase this to fit it into what we're talking about. So he said, look, listen, and observe. Heed the words. It's like the silver tsunami style proverbs. The righteous pay a price to get what they deserve. So just goes back to sometimes you need to sit, observe, listen to the wisdom, and then be willing, to put in the work to essentially get what you deserve. So, um, all these older folks, they put in work back in the day. So, it's not like it's just going to get handed to you. And, as Walter talked about his experience, usually you got to put in some time. And then with time comes those opportunities.
Give Mitch Jorsky a big round of applause. He's a scaredy cat guide to real estate investing. He wrote the book on the topic. He also will be speaking at the summit this year. He's going to be talking about how he made his business partner financially free, got him out of a job he doesn't love, and is building wealth with his business partner, changing and transforming his life. What's cool about his partner is he has a kid, he's married, and he's out there in Massachusetts while Mitch lives here in Florida. He's able to actually pay it forward to somebody who he loves and wants to see do very well just by being involved in his deal, by partnering up, being a great coach, being a great mentor, and bringing money to the deal. One more time for Mitch Shorsky. He's going to talk about how you can be maybe not the right disc profile in a partnership, but find ways to work past that. So even if your personality types aren't ideal for a business relationship, the right people still find a way. And Mitch has done a wonderful job with making sure he delivers on his relationship and delivers on his business. So we do this guided meditation thing, freaks some people out. So if you're one of those people and you're like, man, I don't want to internalize demographics and working with the right people all the time and always making lots of money from great relationships, then you could log off. That's cool. Q&A comes right after that. But if you're sticking around for the guided meditation, you can close your eyes, take a deep breath. If you want to turn the cameras off, that's fine. I will continue with my camera on because, well, I like seeing myself look back at me when I'm talking. So take a deep breath in and exhale any negativity you have around your ideal avatar, around your ideal demographic. Take another deep breath in, feeling empowered, feeling like a great person, feeling like somebody who does things the right way, who cares about other human beings. And as we exhale, any thoughts or feelings that, hanging around, people who are older than you is uncomfortable or weird, we're just going to let that slide away. Noticing that they were all young like us at some point. They were all running their lives. They were doing cool shit. And maybe they were even cooler than some of us. So take another deep breath in, feeling that we too must learn from the past generation. And not only that we must, we get the opportunity to serve them. We get the opportunity to help those who can no longer help themselves, knowing that likely we'll be gravitating to people who also helped others when they were our age, when they were your age, when they were doing things like you are doing. And so most of the business owners or entrepreneurs or real estate investors who have aged out and are looking to sell or give away their portfolios, they too went through a phase where somebody believed in them. And so they can remember those times when they're talking to you. They can remember those times when they're negotiating with you. They know what to look for. They know how to guide you. They know what to be concerned about, what not to be concerned about. They know their portfolio. They know their business. They know their investments. And so you can lean on them. And as we're going through this, I want you to, in your head, visualize you sitting at the coffee table with an older person who has monstrous amounts of wealth, and both of you laughing, having a wonderful conversation about just life in general, finding synergies, finding similarities, identifying with them, asking cool questions to questions you want the answers for, and finding yourself fascinated by the fact that they have very solid answers, very solid bits of information, resources, knowledge, and finding that the more you spend time with people who have been where you've been, the more you can actually connect with the world that you're in today. And the more you understand the world you're in today, because a lot of things sometimes feel like random bits of information that don't make any kind of sense. but they sometimes have had 20, 40 years ahead of you to figure some of this stuff out. They seem to have real grasp for the meaning of life and what we're supposed to do on the planet. So as you're visualizing yourself laughing and learning and enjoying the presence of people who've been here before, who've done it all, who have assets, who have investments, who have cash flow, notice now that they also have problems. They have a lack of time. Time is running out for them. They have a lack of zest or energy. The energy is running out for them. They have a lack of knowledge on how things work maybe today, but they have a lot of knowledge of how things worked before. And they're going to be open to questions. They're going to be open to also asking questions. Notice yourself being patient and calm in these conversations, not rushing to deliver value or what you perceive as value. Notice that in these situations, you find true value, what real value is to them. Sometimes you may discover that some of these relationships, the value is being heard. There are many people who have large portfolios, large businesses, and real estate portfolios, and they just want to share and pass their knowledge along. They want to give back. They want to contribute. They want to be important in somebody else's life because what they built is hard to build, and they're aware of that. And a lot of times they want to support you. They want to help you get to the next level because they see a little bit of themselves inside you and what you're doing. So as you're taking these deep breaths and seeing yourself as an action taker who loves hanging out with people who have large amounts of money, people who've acquired great portfolios, people who have acquired great levels of knowledge in understanding around business and real estate, find yourself smiling and feeling more comfortable in your role. One of the things that comes with this awareness is that if you don't get out and talk to them, nobody will. Or even more dangerously, if you aren't the one who talks to them, maybe somebody less scrupulous, less knowledgeable, less educated, less caring than you could be showing up at their door because the world is full of wolves. There are people out there who just pound the phones, people out there who are just getting into other people's lives and just taking without ever having the intention to give all the way through. And so if you don't show up, sometimes somebody else will. And if you believe you're the best at what you do and you care about your customers and you care about helping more people, then it's your responsibility, it's your moral, ethical duty to be there first. And not just to be there first, but to stay all the way through the transaction and make sure they get to where they want to go. Because even if we don't make money on every transaction, if we consistently can deliver on every promise we make and over deliver on every promise we make, we will build a wonderful business. And if we don't profit on every deal, but we have a massive impact on this planet, I assure you the profit will come no matter what. Money is like an avalanche flowing to those who advance others. And is an unstoppable avalanche. It may not come from the relationship you served, it may come from other places, but a person who does things the right way for people always ends up with everything that they desire in life, which leads me to one more reminder. When the money flows, allow it in. When the money comes to you, have a way to accept it. Be knowledgeable on how to creatively finance deals. Be knowledgeable on how to get them to where they want to go. And when they ask for your help, say yes. Even if you don't have all the tools or resources at the time you are in Alchemist Nation, you're in many other networking groups, you can always find the tools, resources, knowledge, and people. So as you're coming back, open your eyes, knowing that you are a confident, charismatic, lovable, likable, helpful human being who maybe is going to go out and grab a whole bunch of senior citizens, get them together around a spaghetti night or a bingo night, and just jam out on some great conversations, some great times. Maybe you're bringing back the 60s, 60s bingo, and bringing back some knowledge of their time and past and giving them the opportunity to share stories of a time, passing the mic around, just letting them share stories of a time that you didn't actually get to experience. You only got to see on TV. Let's give everybody on the call a big round of applause. You're coming back to the room. We do those guided meditations because how we think and how we operate is 100% the results we're going to create out of this world. So if we're feeling better about our story, feeling better about who we are and what we're doing, there's a good chance that when we're in somebody's house, we're on the call with somebody, or we're connecting with their family and helping them move along a funnel, along a way to better success for themselves, that energy would help a lot. Just knowing, hey, I'm going to do the right thing. No matter what I do, I will do the right thing. It's going to work out for them. I'll fight for them. I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that they get to their next level. So fans, if you feel that way, you feel like you can do a great job for other people, excellent. Especially those who can't do it for themselves. Now, every single week we have Q&A. I love the Q&A. And I also have to jump to have a conversation with Melanie Santos because she bailed on my call yesterday. And so she and I are going to jump on a call at 11. So what I'm going to ask is if Billy Reuter is here, Billy Reuter, if you can run the Q&A session for me, brother. Let's give Billy and Mitch Jorsky a big round of applause. Gentlemen, if you don't mind fielding questions, Mitch, around real estate, Billy, fielding questions around business, I'll be making both of you co-hosts. And now the first to unmute wins. But Greg, I know we're doing a deal in Decatur, and there have been challenges. There have been opportunities. There's been, shakeups. How do you get past the BS, and what got you on a plane out there to solve problems?
Just goes back to the old adage of, for me, is what's the next step? What's the next problem, or what's the next solution? So always, looking a little bit ahead, but always staying focused on what you're doing now.
I like that. Let's give Greg a blanket round of applause. My business partner out in 35 units out in the Midwest and looking to buy more requirement of assets. First to unmute wins. Billy Reuter is in charge. Billy, make sure that Mitch answers all the real estate questions to the end. Don't let him just rap quote his way through this. All right.
What's up, everybody? Walter, thank you so much, brother. I accept this responsibility with honor, privilege, and pleasure, my friend.
I appreciate you. Remember, when you sign off, always work with the best. It's so important. People will not log off if we don't say when you have a choice, always work with the best. So it's very, very important. See you, brother. Cheers.
You got it. Appreciate you, brother. What's up, everybody? How's you doing?
Doing good. I got a question for you.
All right, all right.
Looking at our property. It's seller finance. And I want to put some tiny houses or cabins on it. Right now it's zoned for 5 residents per acre, but I want to go to the town and see if they will double that for the tiny houses or for the cabins. I was told that the town that it's in will often make those provisions or exceptions, but looking for the formula to evaluate whether the total cost is going, how to hedge against, making a bad investment. So, what things do I need to look out for in making the evaluation, to determine whether or not it's actually going to be a fit? It's two and a half acres, or 2 1/3 acres. So I'm looking at, right now it should be zoned for a dozen tiny homes. There's already a house on it. It's a 2-1, which probably bring in about the same amount as one of the tiny homes. So
I appreciate the question. Yeah, I'm gonna actually lean on my brother from another mother, the more handsome and real estate guru, Mitch himself. This is his world.
You must have been talking about someone else. More
appreciate
handsome.
it, Bill.
More handsome. That's some other guy. I don't know what you're talking about, Billy. I'm just trying to live in your world. I'm gonna try and somewhat answer this briefly, because this is like a deep dive Monday night mastermind type question. Especially when you talk about like running all the numbers and whatnot. At the end of the day, how are you generating revenue? Is this like long-term rentals? Is this Airbnb? Like whatever that is, you need to come up with your estimated revenue number. And it all starts with that. And then from there you can look into cost. Wow. I don't even know how to answer this shortly because there's so much information needed. But yeah, so figure out what your total revenue numbers, generally are going to look like. And then, figure out what your cost of, getting up and running is going to be, and then what your financing is going to be. It's like, this is what I love about real estate. It's basic arithmetic at the end of the day. It's like, as long as you can add and subtract, you can run the numbers on real estate. So, as far as making sure it's a good deal or not, at the end of the day, it's comes down to will it cash flow. And when you run the numbers, when you do the math, if it's going to be profitable, then perfect. Just remember, part of that is, factoring in allocations for a bunch of things, typically you have, maintenance, vacancy, all that stuff. With brand new tiny homes, your maintenance is probably going to be pretty non-existent at first, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't still be allocating for reserves. Obviously, you said there's an existing property on there. So I'm sure there's probably some maintenance on that property that might be needed, maybe some deferred maintenance. So don't forget to factor that in on acquisition. So that could be like a potential wild card that might derail you where, you acquire that and the land and, these tiny homes, and then you realize, oh crap, this is existing property needs, whatever, 75K on work, and, you don't have that capital. So that could be like an example of a wild card. So, yeah, just pay attention to all those things. And at the end of the day, like I said, just make sure the numbers make sense and it's going to be profitable. And again, allocate for, and you got to figure out too, like when I talk about allocating for like vacancy, figure out what your occupancy rate's going to look like if you're running it like, let's say, an Airbnb or, vacation rental, because that's a very different animal than if you're doing it as long-term rentals, which I assume tiny homes is going to probably be some type of short-term rental and or vacation rental. So
I was looking to do a combination, rent half of them, like longer term, and the other half for, because it's less than probably 45 minutes from Disney.
nice.
So Airbnb and I think would be very doable. And I figured to start out, figure about half and half and see which one's doing better, and then adjust from there if needed.
It makes
Scott,
sense, especially because right off the bat you want to lock in some consistent revenue, so to speak. So I think that is not a bad idea at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, that's in terms of 10,000-foot view, that's about what I have for you. But it's definitely something that's worth deep diving. I don't know if you are part of the Monday Night Mastermind, but that's what they do. They deep dive into stuff like this. But at the end of the day, just, run those numbers. Just
Okay.
and like, I don't know what your experience is, but so there's some basic stuff. I saw like Lisa put in the chat, asking public water or sewer. Like, yeah, you got to pay attention to that too. Whether you're dealing with septic or whether you have city sewer and water, those are costs to factor in, especially for instance, like I got a buddy that does mobiles, and he's actually crushing it doing them in like Mississippi and Tennessee. And his biggest thing is factoring in generally what his cost is going to be for septic, because he's pretty much all his sites like this. He's got to install septic, so that's an expense that if you don't factor in can really derail you because it's not always cheap. Tens of thousands of dollars. So it depends on the state. They vary. I mean, I know in Massachusetts, you're generally looking at least 30 grand. Um, so just keep those little details in mind as well when you're putting together your numbers.
I
Thank
would,
you.
Mitch, I agree with you. I would also just add, I would probably just start with the city first to make sure that all of these things that you're planning are able to be done, and ask them if there's any restrictions on the land.
That in the contingency of the offer, all of that was in there about all the approvals for the project.
Okay, I missed that part.
Smart.
No,
Smart.
I didn't, but thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep.
That's
Appreciate
great.
it.
Thank you, Scott, bro.
Any advice I can get, thank you.
No, we appreciate the question, brother. Thank you, Scott. And of course, Mitch, thank you so much for your expertise as always. And guys, before we open it up, if you don't mind, I think this would be really valuable, especially on today's topic. Walter did a phenomenal job. No surprise, right? Talking about demographic, talking about persona. And if it's okay, I'd like to add just 2 cents to this. And when I figured this out about 20 years ago, and I applied this in 3 different industries. And it's so relevant, I applied it yesterday with my partner, Jamie, in our construction business. This is how relevant it is. When you're really thinking about who your ideal client is and your customer, Really do a good job clarifying the features that you're going to be providing. But here's where you'll make a lot more money. You'll have a lot more attraction. Enter the conversation in their mind, right? When I was a fitness entrepreneur, people did not come to me and pay purely because I had 3 fitness classes on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They didn't come for a nutrition plan. We think that's what we're selling them, and it's not. I was able to get the real reason why. This is what I'm going to share with you today. Why do people want to go to the gym? It's not just to lose weight. Why do they want to lose weight? They want to finally, if it's a man, he wants to be able to take a shirt off at the pool and finally feel confident in front of his family like a leader. That's what they don't tell you. Enter that conversation, right? We use the term financial freedom. It's a beautiful term. It's on every ad, every poster you can imagine. Someone describe what it means. If I ask you all to describe what financial freedom means in the chat, I guarantee you we'll have about 55 different answers. Does that make sense? So it's understanding why people do what they do. Get into that story, enter that conversation in their mind. People didn't want to get a black belt with me when I owned martial arts. The man wanted to be able to walk down the street with that self-confidence, knowing, God forbid, his family was in a random act of violence. He can quickly, easily, and effectively, take care of business, right? Business is no different, guys. Real estate, investment, mortgage. When you really enter the conversation in their mind, use language that they use to describe their problem, you will radically improve your marketing, your sales conversions, and of course, your bottom line. So I just wanted to share that with you. Of course, I'm now open for questions. It looks like Mr. Jeremy has his hands up. Okay, Jeremy, unmute, brother.
Yeah, less a question and more a piggyback, because what you're highlighting on that conversation in their mind, start with their fears, what keeps them up awake at night, what stresses them out. If I died tomorrow, I left this undone. And then you turn that into features, benefits, and outcomes. For us, feature 24 hours a day. Well, okay, big deal. What am I supposed to do with that? Well, the outcome is convenience. I'm sorry, the benefit is convenience, but they still don't have a story or something to connect into. So when your pregnant wife wants pickles and ice cream and sardines at 2 a.m., we got you covered because we're open 24 hours a day. When you can take your feature into a benefit for them and give them an outcome they can put themselves into, when they catch that story, they're like, oh, that's the people for me. And that is our challenge as on the marketing side of our business, how we get into those stories. And that's why it's so critical we know who our target audience is. Because if you're not working with somebody with a pregnant wife, that story is going to just float right over them. And that's not for me. And they're going to tune you out. When we talk about aging population, are their kids talking to them? Do their kids want to run the business? Do they want to buy the business? Or are they sick to hell of hearing about it and want nothing to do with it? So knowing some of those stories, the resentments, the resistances, the fears, the hurts they've suffered, when we can talk about that and they're like, do you have a camera in my house? Those are the marketing stories we want to capture, because that's the feedback. That's our ideal avatar. Same thing when Rich was like, that's me, that avatar, that's me, I'm that guy. It's like, that's when it's dialed in perfectly.
Beautiful share, Jeremy. Thank you, brother. Outstanding. Outstanding. Any other questions, my amazing alchemist family? Feel free to unmute at all.
The book was on ancient wisdom, right? Have you read that book yet? The Robert Greene book?
Personally, I've not, no.
Right. So I'm all about ancient wisdom as a Stoic life coach, what I was doing before I was doing the impact coaching thing. I'm going to read it today. And Billy, I know you're that as in martial arts or into Eastern wisdom too, right?
Absolutely. And what Richie talked about, I love this, right? And I think this would be very beneficial for everybody. It's a kind of cute little connection here, but all of these ancient philosophies, there's merit there, right? Richie, especially, we've had countless conversations about Marcus Aurelius, Stoicism, and even some people pull power from biblical stories, and they're all gorgeous, beautiful, useful, and helpful. What I've shared with him, what I would love to share with you guys, is take the philosophy and then bring it down to practicality, right? There is an adaptation phase that needs to go on. You're not changing the roots. You're not changing the core, right? Marcus Aurelius, his book is by my desk somewhere, right? He was amazing. But you have to be able, this is where the critical thinking, the free thinkers, the leaders that we all are, taking that awesome philosophy, filtering it through your own paradigm so it's practical for you to use every single day. So it's not just, hey, that's a really cool proverb, awesome. It's how can I extract the lesson, really filter it to adapt to myself and my business, my family, fill in the blank. And that way you can show up as your best self because there's such treasure there. Right. And again, I'm not even a religious man, but when Gary gets on in some of our masterminds and he shares some quotes, my mind is blown because he does a phenomenal job. Again, he's a pastor, right? But he does a phenomenal job of here's a proverb, awesome. Here's how it applies to you, right? And I love that. And I think there's a lot of, like Richie said, ancient wisdom. And my invitation to everybody before we answer the next question is I guarantee you right now you're sitting on a treasure. Right now, I guarantee you have thoughts and stories and Bibles and books that are on your bookshelf that you're sitting on a multi-million-dollar empire right next to your nightstand. And the challenge is we have a hard time connecting that information to our current implementation. We have a boundary there. So I promise you, if you do the work to extrapolate that, there's countless treasures right in your nightstand in a couple hundred pages.
Hey, I just want to piggyback on that, Billy.
Please.
I was actually listening to an interview with Alex Hormozy today, and it was really good, but he came up with this term and I'd never heard it before, but I was like, and this is so appropriate. He's like, the difference between an entrepreneur and a wannapreneur are the facts of being able to take those principles in those books that all the entrepreneurs got and put them into practical action steps and take action on them. So that's very great. Great. Just thought that was appropriate based on what I just heard this morning. That's good.
I appreciate that. And thank you, Gary, for that share. And, again, it's very similar, right? And I think, especially in this group, right? There's 49 of us left on here. One of the biggest challenges, if I'm going to take 20 seconds and describe something, I am like everybody else, we've probably been to countless seminars, countless, right? I'm up in the high hundreds. I've been in this game for many years, and not just as a speaker, but as the guy in the front row with notes, right? And I'm still both of those. I share that because we are not in an information deficit at all. There are more books now than ever. Right now, every single one of us, and I spoke about this at the summit last year, and I will address this on the summit this year. We think we need more information. We have a library full of books, which is awesome. But the challenge is our practicality, our results are not amplifying. We are drowned in information, but we lack in the implementation. So what Gary said, and if you're not a fan of Alex Hormozy or you don't know who he is, I can't suggest highly enough. Okay. I've been with him for like 20 years when we were both in personal trainers years ago. Now he's doing, a little bit better with $200 million portfolio, but I'm catching up. But Alex is an amazing human being. Amazing. I know him personally. I'm telling you, amazing human being. But one of his biggest strengths, exactly what Gary just highlighted, is this. He is all about facts. One of his other favorite things is evidence over emotions. That's how you build a business. Motivation, happiness, positivity, rah, unicorns, happy. It's gorgeous, beautiful, great state of vibration. But what's your bottom line? What's your spreadsheet? What's your net worth? How many sales did you close? Alex Hormozy is able to build and scale multiple companies because he's an evidence over emotion guy. I'm not saying we have to be like Alex Hormozy. In fact, I suggest you don't. Authenticity is your power. But what principles can we take from his skill set for free? He gives everything for free and apply it to your business. Does that make sense? So many of us are very emotional based, right? We love to read the books. We'll even share an Instagram quote of Marcus Aurelius, but our life's in disorder, right? We'll share a motivating quote from one of our favorite YouTubers, but we don't embody that principle. So my invitation to you guys once again is to ask this question, because none of us have the power or ability to do it. Ask yourself, where are the leaks in my life? Am I just good at reciting information and quotes and books? Am I really taking the time to remove the limiting beliefs and embrace these principles so I can upgrade my life? That's a very powerful question that only you can answer. Even myself as a coach, I can't answer it for you. I can just guide you and unlock the door for you. Thank you, Gary. Great share, brother. We have time for about one more question. Anybody else have anything to or share?
I like to share a little story.
All right,
I
Lisa.
served a lady who was 90 years old last year. Her 60-year-old son died unexpectedly. And there was a squatter that stayed in the house after he passed away. She brought in a whole bunch of homeless people that they were all doing drugs. We couldn't get her out until the SWAT team showed up and got her out. And it was really so emotional for her. So when you are talking to people who are elderly like that, I mean, obviously she's 90. She doesn't actually have, I mean, don't judge, but she doesn't have a computer. She knows nothing about, technology. But when you do talk to the elderly people, I think the most important thing is to do it in person or by phone. Don't be like email, text. And I negotiate a lot in my real estate business. That's my superpower. And I will tell you one thing, I don't get anywhere with, yeah, you can memorialize things in an email, but the best way to really communicate with, especially with this target market, is in person. Respect them, let them talk, let them tell you the same story over and over and over again. And you know what? You're going to learn something from life because they did that for you. So definitely, I think that's important to know that you don't want to walk into a meeting with someone and know that think you're going to spend a half an hour with them, but you got to prepare like 2 hours and don't show that you're, exhausted by the conversation. That won't go over well.
Lisa, that's a great share. I really appreciate you sharing that. And I think that's, one of the beautiful takeaways that I receive from that is, and I hope this lands for everybody else, this is a relationship business, right? And I think I've shared this before. I intentionally misspell the word relationships. I put it REAL, relationships, real relationships, right? And that's really what makes the difference of just a contact, a guy on Facebook, a woman in your event versus a real conversation. I'm sorry, real relationship. They come from real conversations. That comes from a real strong intention to serve them. Yes, there is a transaction sometimes on the other side, but transactional outcomes come from relational connection. I might write that down. That's like a good bumper sticker, right? But it's true. It's like, transactions come on the other side of that. And like you said, Lisa, I think this is so beautiful. And please, everyone, allow me to take one more second. In her very specific, real, relevant example, truly amplifies and there's a word I'm looking for here, anchors in the lesson of today, knowing your market, right? Knowing your market, because that 90-year-old woman has her own story. She has her own perception of reality, her own struggles, fears, frustrations, and having the ability to be a conduit of compassion, patience, as well as leadership to lead her to a better decision. It took leadership for the next step to call in the SWAT team. It took leadership for someone to do that with her or for her. That's our job. We're facilitators of finances. That's all we really are. So Lisa, what a beautiful, beautiful share. Thank you. And I think I see a hand up. Scott, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, and just one thing to add on to that is, relationships take time. They take investment. I mean, think about any relationship that you have, whether it be a husband and wife, a father and son, a mother, daughter, any of those relationships. If you're not spending time with that person, what kind of a relationship do you really have? And so if you try to rush through and just try to push the process or push the deal, you're not building a relationship. You're trying to make a deal, make a sale, what have you. But the real relationships, I like the way you put that, real relationships, take time, take investment. Don't rush it.
I love that. Scott, great. Give him a round of applause. Scott, great share, man. And great observation.
Just wanted to share one thing
please.
before you go.
Yeah, go ahead, son. No, please.
So yeah, sorry guys, because we're talking about people and relationships and elderly people. I just wanted to share that my grandma just turned 100 years old.
Oh, beautiful. Happy birthday,
yeah.
Grandma.
Yes. So she's the elder one in the family. Yes.
What a great share. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
That
guys.
is awesome. What a gem of wisdom.
Yeah.
My goodness, 100
Yes.
years. Yeah.
Thank
Send her
you.
our love, please. Alchemist family
Wow.
love, 100. Centurion,
Thank
that's
you.
amazing. Incredible.
Wow.
Sometimes I feel like 100, but that's a whole other conversation. No, guys, really from the bottom of my heart, anytime that I have the opportunity to jump on here and, Walter trusts me enough to lead, and Mitch and the rest of the amazing crew. I don't take it lightly. I take it as the highest honor for someone to trust their family with myself. And please understand, I'd rather be nowhere else on a Saturday. So again, privilege, pleasure, and honor. I am super excited that once again we're all together. I absolutely adore each and every one of you. And something that Mitch had said before about answering a question, and I always like to remind us about this because sometimes we forget, including myself. Alchemist Nation is more than a Saturday call, right? Saturday calls are phenomenal, 52 Weeks to Wealth. But guys, we are an online community that is supported by an in-person community. And any questions, challenges, frustrations you're going through, lean on the community, right? We have resources like free Facebook groups. You're all a part of it. So I share that with you because business happens 24/7. Business happens 7 days a week. So if you're going through a challenge or frustration on a Tuesday afternoon, my invitation to you is not to wait till Saturday, right? Really leverage the resources of our community on Facebook. Post your question, right? I'm the admin of a couple of groups, and we allow questions all the time because so many reasons. For one, want to serve you at the highest level. For two, we are packed with expert people. Like I shared, I was glad to pass the torch to Mitch. That's his world. He is the real estate guru, and he likes when I call him that because he's so handsome, right? But the idea, though, guys, is we are a community, right? Understand that. And when we leverage that, your business, your life, your happiness will be amplified. And you'll start to create a dialogue because so many people have the same challenges and frustrations and questions that you do, right? So again, 52 Weeks of Wealth, one of my absolute favorite highlights of my week, primarily because you guys are here. But again, as an invitation and reminder, leverage that group. Facebook is a beautiful hub for all of us like-minded alchemist family to support each other. So yes, celebrate your wins, but do not feel afraid to post a challenge, a frustration. Believe me, in our community, we've most likely gone through something similar, and we will all come together to support you at the highest level. So I hope that lands for you guys.
Hey, Bill, can I say something for me, ends?
Of course you can.
So Walter has been training us for Recession Proof Challenge starting in September. There's several coaches who teach it. If anyone has not been through it and wants to grow their business with Alchemist Nation, just reach out to one of the coaches that teach it that best aligns with your fit for you, and you can get it in September. We're currently filling classes.
I appreciate
If
that.
you go to a local business and real estate professionals meetup, that's your coach. That's the one you want to reach out to. It's for the local. We want these to be localized in the places. But if you do not have a business and real estate professionals meetup in your area, then yeah, just reach out and we can get you with somebody. It is going to be done on Zoom, but we really do want our the coach that you work with in the biz rep. If you're attending a biz rep, we want you to work with that coach. Okay, guys? Thanks. And Richie does run a biz rep in Lakeland. So if you're out in that area, that's the one you want to contact Richie.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we have a lot of people in Tampa in the group. Who's running Tampa?
Pete Ambrosini and myself.
All right, so if you're in Tampa, reach out to Gary. He'll hook you up. If you're in Lakeland, me, and if you're north of the city, reach out to Michelle.
Yep. Good.
Michelle, absolutely.
Thank you.
Guys, beautiful work as always. Again, I'm going to sign off so you guys get back to your beautiful Saturday. Again, absolute privilege, pleasure, and honor to serve all of you, even for just 20 minutes. Go out, crush your week. If you need anything, we are all here. All right. So again, I want to sign off like Walter. When you have a choice, always work with the best. Mad love for all of you. See you guys later.
God bless. Go get them, baby.